Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the CEO for the Coalition on Adult-Based Education, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our webinar today, Preparing Adult English Language Learners for the Workforce, Models and Resources. And this is going to be a really outstanding webinar. We know how much our teachers and administrators, but teachers in particular, really could use this sort of professional development. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to the sponsor of this webinar, Robert Breitbart with Burlington English. And before I do, I just want to say, Burlington English has been a wonderful partner, not just to COABE, but to the field. I feel like they're constantly out in the field, innovating and coming up with new tools and resources. And we are really grateful for their sponsorship because it's how we're able to make this free of charge to our members. So Robert, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn this over to you.
Well, friends, everybody do hope this webinar is greeting you and you're safe and you're healthy. It's so great that with everything going on at your house, in your home, that you're so focused on doing the very best for your adult learners. And it goes without saying, thanks to the incredible work of Sharon Bonney, Dr. Don Finn, and all of our friends at COABE, above and beyond, never seen anything. Please check out the latest edition of the COABE Connections. It's fantastic stuff you can use right away. And speaking of which, besides what you'll see from our really fantastic presenter today, Lisi, on behalf of all of us, my more than 40, now 50 colleagues in Burlington English, please let us know that besides everything you see today, that Burlington English is here with support, support, support. And that means everything that has to do with your adult learners, particularly your ELL learners, and preparing them for the workforce, whether that's, as you see on the screen, the first job, the second job, and for their entire career pathway plan. And obviously every screenshot you see here is exactly what you'll find in Burlington English. If you can't take your learners to these experiences, you can virtually bring these experiences to these learners. So whether it's great simulation of working with a virtual career counselor and building a digital virtual career portfolio, or going to a virtual job fair, you'll find all of this in Burlington English. As well as concepts. Well, when I was a teacher for years, I wasn't a trained career counselor. I don't know if I could have done the best, fantastic job of teaching concepts like career laddering. Well, just know that all of your learners, we've done the work for you. We've really made your job as a teacher, or those who support teachers' jobs, very easy as far as concepts, identifying what career is going to be right for them, whether it's entering into post-secondary education. And then when they do enter into possibly a transitional certificate program, they don't enter in cold. They've got dialogue, they've got vocabulary, so they're ready to succeed. And when it's time, as Lisi's going to talk about, to go for that job interview and everything else for getting that first job, that second job, that's covered in Burlington English. And then finally, even the soft skills needed to not just get that job and keep that job. So whatever kind of device that your learners are using, that you are using to instruct, just know we've got you covered, fully web-based. So again, on behalf of all of us at Burlington English, I really, really want to say thank you very much. Hope to see you on our website, burlingtonenglish.com. And now I'll turn it back over to our fantastic Sharon Bonney. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate that. Really appreciate all you guys are doing. And like I said, to everybody that's on this webinar, Burlington English definitely leading the field in innovation and coming up with tools and resources that you can use. So thank you. I also just want to mention National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. This is coming up, and this is a really big deal. Right now, when we're dealing with and looking at so many of our members in the field are telling us COVID's really taken a bite out of their budget, and it's been really difficult trying to get all their resources online, trying to think about, do their students have Wi-Fi access? Do their students have the laptops do they need? They want to reopen, and it's hard to do so when you don't have the PPE and you don't have the budget for PPE, and you also don't have the space maybe and the teachers now, because the way it's going to have to be socially distanced. So one of the things we feel really strongly about, we need to come together as a field and raise our voice. And so what we try to do is make this as easy and as, give as many tools as possible to the field, but we need a little something from you as well. We are right now engaged in asking those in the field to send us videos, and they can be anything from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. And it could be an adult learner talking about why adult education is so important to them, how it's changed their life. It could be a teacher, you as a teacher, talking about why you're in the profession, or how, you know, what kind of impact COVID has had on you, or how your adult school came together and was able to overcome COVID, or it could be a wide range. We just want to hear from you. And what we will do, you can shoot it right on your cell phone. It can be very, very easy, simple. Shoot it on your cell phone, send it to us. We will then take it and pizzazz it up. Here's a picture of somebody who hopefully is going to send us a short little video. We're then going to amplify voices that way during Adult Ed and Family Literacy Week. But also we have a wonderful Twitter storm, which when you go to our website during Adult Ed and Family Literacy Week, which is September 20th through 26th, it's going to be really, really easy to get in there and send one click, send all your legislators a tweet that basically talks about adult education and how 65,000 adult educators work together, and what the value and the ROI is for the work that we do. You also still have the opportunity to send a quick email to all your legislators with 3 quick clicks, all of them, all the way from starting at mayors to governors to members of Congress to president. Everybody will be able to receive an email from you. And let me tell you, I personally know that this works, because whenever I send emails, I get responses back from the legislators. So it definitely works. While you all are hopefully engaging with us that way, we also have a number of really exciting other things that are happening. We're going to have an Amazon job fair for adult learners, totally free. It's going to be virtual. So that's taking place. We're going to have a panel discussion with leaders in the workforce and education sector, from Strata Network, the National Governors Association, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, our friends at Barbara Bush Foundation, all coming together talking about why is workforce and education so important. We are also going to have daily recognition events for legislators that have supported us, from mayors to governors to members of Congress. So lots of great things coming. Our scheduled events will be posted shortly. But we really hope that you will engage. And while you're doing that, while you're engaging with us, your state leaders from the state associations and state agencies that partner with COABE, all 47 of them, will be out there meeting, actually having virtual meetings with their legislators, with the governors and their 2 members of Congress. And besides all of that, we have a huge, huge list of partners that have come alongside and will be also amplifying the voice. They will have web banners across the top of their page. They will be sending out tweets from our tweet deck. They will have special spotlight interviews with partners. And the idea really is, during this COVID pandemic stricken time, that we're all going to come together and do the best that we can to raise the visibility of the success that we have as a field, but also that we will come together and we will let funders know we need help, we need support. So I just wanted to take a moment out of this really precious time that we have here together to listen to Lisi's presentation, just to share a bit about that and about the work that we're doing there, in the hopes that all of you, every one of us, will come together for adult education during this time. I also now want to take a moment just to share really quickly my slide here for our presenter. And as I am introducing our wonderful presenter, hopefully you will welcome her in the chat box, and we'll put our questions in Q&A. But Lisi Weiss is retired as a tenured ESL basic skills instructor and distance technology trainer at El Paso Community College. She now works as an educational consultant with her own reconnection company. She currently serves as a links trainer and resource reviewer after many years of moderating its reading and writing community of practice as well. Lisi also evaluates projects in the Southwest that serve Native American students entering STEM occupations. She trains teachers online through live video and on-site on a variety of topics. So I would like to ask you to welcome today, Lisi Weiss. Lisi, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn this over to you.
Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Robert, for all you do, and thanks for the introduction. And I look forward to sharing some models with you in terms of implementing IET, integrated education training, among ESL students. So we'll get started. hope I didn't make you dizzy with that. So today, what we're going to do is explore links and related sources. Links is my sponsor in this workshop, and Links has a lot of resources for English as a second language acquisition. So I'll tell you a little more about links. We'll define WIOA and IET requirements, and we'll define 5 workforce EL, English as a language program models and practices that align with WIOA. So if that's what you came for, that's what we plan to offer you today. And let me say that if you have questions, we'd like for you to ask them in the question and the Q&A. If you look on your screen, you'll find a little box for that. But if you want to chat, and I'm going to ask you to participate depending on how much time we have in the chat box. So at the end of the session, I'll be asking you to share your questions. And I think Sharon told me that she would help with that. So what is Links? Basically, Links is your national community for adult education. And literacy, information, and communication system. And I hope that you'll get very acquainted with Links if you haven't already. So Links offers adult educators throughout the country 5 different sections filled with resources, as you can see here. The community of practice, and I'm going to show you what those are, the topics, allows you to talk to experts, peers, co-workers everywhere. And they're really discussion groups that deal with anything you want. The Learning Portal offers all sorts of self-paced and facilitated courses that allow you to grow professionally. And these are research-based courses, so you can depend on their being valid and current. The resource collection is simply a group of resources that are reviewed by experts and provided to you. Everything is free. The Learner Center is just what you see there. It's for adult learners. And then Links for States works with state programs to help them develop professional development opportunities for their practitioners. So here are the topics that you can opt to join, and I hope you will. You never have to feel alone as an adult educator. I know often as adult educators, we do feel alone, but you don't have to with Links because there are these communities waiting for your participation. And as you can see, number 1, career pathways, and number 4, English language acquisition. I invite you to, without joining, you can see what discussions are happening in these groups. But if you want to participate, and I hope you do, then you can join. And the joining is very simple. When you get online, you go to the communities, join, enter the information, and in a couple of days, they'll approve your entry. And then you can actually participate in discussions. But I strongly suggest that you only join 1 or 2 to start out with, because you're going to get digests with, if you choose to do so, and if with the current discussion. So if you belong to 11 communities, you're going to have a lot of, it's 1 email, but it'll have a lot of content that'll show you the current discussions. Anyway, don't feel alone, join the community. Links also provides you with a learning portal that has a lot of English language acquisition strategies that you can use. I'm not going to go there because we have so much to cover today. And there is an ESL Pro section. I'm going to just click on that. And you can see down here that in the ESL Pro resource collection, right over here on the right, you'll see preparing English language learners for work and career pathways, which is what we're discussing today. So why this emphasis on the workplace? You're welcome to give me some ideas in the chat. Let me see if I can get the chat open. I think I can, so I can see what you're saying. So any ideas about why we are having this huge emphasis on the workplace? Obviously to help them professionally. WIOA, yeah, WIOA, you bet. So as you can see, there's good reason to support the movement that really was brought out, high unemployment, yeah. There's good reason to support this whole movement that has brought about a requirement. I mean, I've been teaching ESL since, well, for years, hundreds of years. And at first I was going, well, wait a minute. And a lot of my colleagues were saying the same thing. Wait a minute. Not all people are taking ESL classes to become employed. Well, that's true. But the thrust and the funding for ESL programs and other adult ed programs comes from a need to provide workplace related instruction. So as you can see, in 2014, WIOA made a requirement for anyone receiving federal funding to implement what it calls IET, Integrated Education and Training. So what does that mean? We need to integrate academics, here's academics, with work-related content. And integrate means this, it doesn't mean this, it means this together, so that learners, including English language learners, have the knowledge and skills to help them attain credentials that lead to living wages. So integrated education and training is a three-pronged proposition. One, adult education and literacy activities, concurrent and contextually, both concurrent and contextually, with workforce preparation activities. And notice, this isn't workplace activities, it's workforce preparation activities. And finally, the last part, which is the T, is workforce training for a specific occupational field. So that's what WIOA IET is all about. So what does preparation mean? I know a lot of people get so afraid when they, oh gosh, now I've got to prepare them for the workforce. Well, it doesn't mean that you have to prepare them to work in a specific field. It means that you prepare them to succeed within the environment of different kinds of occupations. So it means communication. It means functional literacy, including civics instruction. For those of you who teach ESL, civics instruction is part of preparation, use of digital and other resources, cognitive skills for problem solving, you know, and I'm probably going to mention this through this whole presentation. In ESL, in my view, we don't do enough math. Math has its own language, it has its own processes. And so rarely do I find ESL teachers working with students in math. And different occupations have different math needs anyway. You'll probably hear me say that more and more. Non-cognitive skills like self-management and other soft skills like getting along with others, those are all preparations. So if you're doing that with your students, and we're going to go into more resources, then you are meeting WIOA requirements for that preparation aspect. And the Department of Education developed this. I like this little visual, which I think help, and I'll leave it up a little bit so you can read it. So preparation skills, employability. It doesn't say employment, it says employability skills. Fall into three different areas. Applied knowledge, which does include applied academic skills and critical thinking, effective relationships, interpersonal skills, personal qualities, and workplace skills. I'm going to talk about scans in a minute. I think you'll love it. Okay, so information use, communication skills, and systems thinking. Those are the kinds of things that employers want us to do. And those are the kinds of things that WIOA supports in programs that it funds. So let's look at a few models that implement WIOA kinds of things. And we'll look at 5 models. And essentially, models, in my view, are not to be replicated, but adapted. So as we go through this, I hope that you'll jot down ideas so that you can then develop your own model, because you have different populations. You can develop your own model and then share it with the rest of us. So look at these models as just suggestions of how you can implement WIOA standards or requirements among ESL students. So those are the 5 models that we're going to discuss. And as you can see, 2 of them sound kind of repetitive, don't they? Contextualized, I thought everything was contextualized. Integrated, I thought everything was integrated. So true, they are. Everything that we are promoting in terms of IED is integration and contextualization. But for purposes of discussing these models, that's what they're called. So contextualized in these models has a different term and different title than integrated instruction. So I hope that makes sense. So let's start with contextualized ESL instruction. As we said, everything needs to be contextualized, but in this model, contextualized ESL is a basic ESL class that addresses, remember that chart that we saw, communication and all of that and academic skills. A contextualized ESL class in the model framework addresses workplace preparation skills without addressing a specific occupation. So I'm sure a lot of you are already doing that. Let's look at the Los Angeles Unified School District's model. And as you can see, and I'm going to increase this for you a little bit here so you can see it. So this competency-based course is designed to develop communicative competency in listening, speaking, reading, writing, etc. And as you go down, the content and instructional strategies of this course reflect English as a second language standards for adult education programs. And way down here, it says, well, areas include on-the-job language, and I hope math. As I said, I'm going to push that a little bit. Common to many workplace settings, career planning, and educational goals. Scans skills. I don't know how many of you are familiar with scan skills, but if you're not, I really encourage you to go do, and I have on my slide a little link. Those of you who go to the participant packet that I'm going to share the link for at the end of the section, you can go to scans, and back in late 90s, 2000, President Bush then went around and asked all big and small employers, not all, but a lot of them, what they wanted schools to do. And across the board, they said, please don't try to teach them how to do the job. Teach them these skills. And basically, they relate very closely to the preparation skills that I mentioned before. So let me just quickly take you so that you can see what SCANS is about and what work requires at school. This came directly from employers all over the United States. At first, as a college instructor, I said, wait a minute, they're making us do this, and they're making us change our syllabus to agree with this, and that's ridiculous. And I ended up doing trainings for it because I liked it so much. So if you go to, in this particular link, and there are many, this is what SCANS is about. I'm going to make this even bigger. So the SCANS defines 5 competencies and foundation skills. And look at them, they're exactly those in one way or another that we talked about in that model that I showed you, that image. So resources, interpersonal skills, working on teams across the board, all over the United States. Employer said the one thing that we need you to do is teach people to work in teams, work collaboratively. Information, systems, technology, and the foundation skills, of course, basic skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, and mathematics, speaking and listening, thinking skills, and personal qualities. So as you can see, workforce preparation isn't about teaching skills for a specific job. It is about preparing people to be receptive to learning the skills for a job and then go into training and succeed once they get jobs. I hope that makes sense. The second model is called bridge programs, and they are essentially programs that bridge, build a bridge between the student and a specific occupation. So the difference is that contextualized doesn't necessarily address a specific occupation, where bridge programs do. And there's a, I'll take you there quickly, but we're going to talk more about this. So this resource on links and view resource has a guide that if you're interested in using this, if you have students that are specifically interested or going into meat packing or going into airport or whatever, this teaches you, and it's a very well-developed guide to help you. Let me go down here, and you can see how to conceive of a career pathway, identify and develop successful partnerships, etc. So I have that link. When you download the packet, you can get into that a little more specifically. So when you talk about preparing students, ESL students, for the workplace, while you're also teaching them basic skills and the whole thing, what kinds of things might you do? And you're welcome to add into the chat, and I'll give you some suggestions. For example, role playing. I remember in our college at the time, we got students that had 0 English capacity, all the way up to being intermediate and so forth. And within 2 years, in order for them to get the Pell Grant, we had to get them in 2 years into freshman English. And of course, once they got to intermediate levels, many of them dropped the program. But they got into freshman English and then got into professions or careers. And I met one of my students years after she actually got her degree, and it was an electric company or something like that in El Paso. And I saw her and I went, oh my gosh, you're working. How do you like it? And she said, oh, Ms. Wise, I can't tell you. I love the job. I love the money. But you guys didn't teach us how to deal with conflict. And she says, I get people in here that are so angry. And when they come to me, I totally freeze. And I get so embarrassed, and I have to run and get a coworker to come and deal with them, because I don't know how to deal, well, most of us don't know how to deal with conflict, but especially ESL students, she says, I don't have the language. I don't know how to respond to somebody who's yelling at me. So I think role playing is one thing that we can do more, especially difficult situations. One of the colleges here, I think mentioned, was asked to do a curriculum for people at the airport in Denver who worked in service occupations and things like restaurants and gift shops and stuff like that. And I know that one of the things that they'll have to implement is to help people deal with conflict with aggressive people. And we often don't do that. So that's one thing. We can do a lot of role playing and let them experience it. Why not? I know you'll have a lot of other students learn, okay. Students learn to solve problems individually and work with a team, yeah. So in this kind of a class, and in fact, in the other models that we're going to discuss as well, you could find core career content. Burlington has a lot of stuff, I'm sure, that will help students focus on a specific career and learn the language and practice it. Career pathway textbooks, they can interview people, interview employers, and interview employees. A program here in Cortez not too long ago had an ESL program, and they brought in people from the Senior Citizen Center and brought them in to talk to their ESL students who were interviewing about what they did, what they had done, because they were now at the center. And I walked down the hall and I heard all this laughter. And guess what? They were having the best time. The senior citizens, of course, felt useful, and the ESL students felt like they had a connection, and they had the best time. And I think it's a great idea to think out of the box that way. So they can, you can get guest speakers instead of like one model we're going to work with has 2 people in the same class, but in this case, you can bring in guest speakers. You can bring former students in. And also, one thing that I don't think we often recognize is that different occupations have different language. So instead of teaching grammar, today we're going to work with parts of speech, or today we're going to work with conditionals, or today we're going to work with ratio and proportion. Oh yeah, and fractions, and we'll have this little box that is divided into 4, and 4 is the unit, etc. So instead of teaching stuff like that, think of academic skills. Think of academic skills in terms of seeds. The seeds would be those ratio, proportion, parts of speech, all of that. And the contextualization, the integration would be in terms of a well-prepared ground. If you just throw seeds out there, yeah, some will grow. If you throw academic skills out there, yes, some students will learn them. But if you prepare to include, to embed, to integrate those skills into a meaningful context, students, adults like meaning. They want to, adults, Dr. Knowles, adults like to see that what they're learning relates to something they're interested in. So I like to think of contextualization in these models that we're looking at as taking those scattered skills and then putting them into the context of something that's meaningful to them. Okay, I'm looking at the chat to see if there are any other idea. Well, you can read what other people are saying, so I'll go on. So anyway, that's the idea of contextualization. So I'm going to take you to this link that tells you how to build bridge programs that fit into a career pathway. And if you view the resource, oh, I already showed you that. Yes, thank you. Okay. So concurrent ESL and tech training. What does that mean? Well, as I put the little arrows there, concurrent means 2 classes. So in contextualized and bridge programs, you have 1 class. Concurrent, you have 2 classes. One is the ESL basic skill class, and the other one is a technical course. And the 2 teachers work closely together. The ESL, like in bridge programs, the ESL teacher needs to know about the skills required in these courses. So if you think about teaching language within this context, if you're an ESL basic skills course, what do you need to know about the technical skills course that would be helpful to support each other? I think I stopped. Let me go back. I think I stopped sharing, didn't I?
Yes, that's
I
correct, Lucy. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going too fast. I get too excited.
You're doing a wonderful job.
So let me go back to this concurrent and show you what I was talking about. So in concurrent classes, there are 2 courses going on together. When I taught at the college, we had over 17,000 enrollments in ESL, not students, but enrollments. And of course, they knew that those students were going into freshman English and they're going to get their degrees, and they wanted our students to get into their programs. And the technology dean came to me and he said, can you help us attract your ESL students into our program? And so what I did is I went to the electronics and HVAC faculty. Basically, those were the 2 big courses. And I taught them how to incorporate academic skills of reading, writing into their courses. And at first they were going, wait a minute, we're vocational teachers. We don't teach writing. This is unreasonable. And I said, we're not asking you to teach writing. We're asking you to help them write. Just have them write. Give them examples. Have them summarize. Have them outline. Take the textbook and show them how to find main ideas in the textbook. How to interpret the textbook. How to use subtitles, and so organize. And you don't have to grade anything. You don't have to grade their writing, but just have them write. And if you want to grade their completion. And they were very happy to know that they didn't have to teach writing. So let me see. Go back. So in that course, I also taught an ESL course that was called Principles of Technology, because everybody who went into technology had to take these 7 textbooks developed by Cord in Waco. And they work with the 4 physical principles: mechanical, electrical, thermal. And in this first book, they worked with work in thermal systems, work in mechanical systems, work in electrical systems. And I taught a course in ESL to ESL students that covered that content, so that when they got into the technology courses that we were hoping to get them into, they would be prepared to deal with the content. So that's an example of concurrent, although it wasn't really concurrent. But here's an example. So they call them linked, but linked class is a combination of core early childhood education class and English as a second language class. So they're teaching a class in ECE and a class in ESL. That's called concurrent. So you have 2 different teachers teaching two different courses, but the courses have related content. So here's an example of what they call work-based classes. And I think I mentioned in Colorado, we have a program that works with meat packers, and their teachers go into the meat packing plant and work with those students. In El Paso, I used to go across the border and went into the maquilas, and they wanted their executives to learn English so that they could go and interact with English speakers in El Paso and elsewhere in the country. So I would go in and I would teach the executives in these companies, in these maquilas, how to converse in English, how to deal in English with related content to their businesses. And I need to tell you that if you choose this kind of model, if you have people going into workplaces like airports or meatpacking plants or factories or whatever, and you're teaching within the site, here's a tip. Make sure that you arrange with them to respect your time with the students as sacred. And I mean sacred because when I went over to the maquilas, these executives were walking in and out, and somebody needed them, they'd go, or they'd come in late. And it was like they were in a class, but they really weren't. They were dealing with their jobs. So one thing I would strongly suggest that you do is have an agreement that if your teachers or if you yourself are working with them, that they consider that as they're not being there, so they can't deal with workplace problems as they're learning English. Okay, so here's an example of that kind of model where McDonald's English under the arches. And I'll increase this so you can read it a little bit. So this is how it works. They take franchise owners and they select people very carefully to participate in the program. They pay their tuition, they give them pay time, work time, and so that while they're at work, they can take off and learn English. The program is voluntary, and owner-operators participate when they identify high potential managers whom they want to support to become better paid, higher paid, with more responsibility. So essentially, work-based classes are implemented within the workplace. And finally, we have integrated instruction. Now, I know, as I've said before, everything you're doing is integrated, but integrated instruction as a model is one class that is taught by two people. And those two people, one is ESL and one is the occupational instructor. So they get together, the two of them get together and they design the course. They design the objectives together. They design the scheduling together. And each one takes 50% of the class. So let's take a look. This is, iBest is one of the strongest models for implementing this kind of instruction. And you have all these, when you get to the packet, you'll have all of these links available to dig into further.
iBest is a data-driven delivery model that has changed how we provide adult education and English language acquisition in Washington State. One instructor teaches foundational reading, writing, digital literacy, math, and employability skills, while the other shows students how to apply those skills in a profession. When compared to students in traditional basic skills classes, iBest students are 3 times more likely to earn college credit and 9 times more likely to earn a certificate or degree. We have the data to show that year after year, iBest works. But don't take our word for it. Here are 4 students whose lives have changed because of iBest.
Okay. So let me take you to another model for this. And I kind of like this model. It, of course, requires that students have a higher level than perhaps in the contextualized and bridge program models. But I kind of like that because it's an example of teamwork. And that's what we want students to do more of. And that's what employers want them to do more of. So if they have teamwork between workplace and English, they can see them more as integrated. So to the extent that you can implement this kind of model and have the
My name is Donna
personnel.
Price, and I teach at the San Diego Community College Continuing Education Program with the iBest Vocational ESL Personal Care Assistant class. I teach with a nurse, so we team teach. I am in the classroom 15 hours a week, and the nurse is there for 9 hours a week. We are together, we teach together. For example, I would teach the language, the pronunciation, the grammar, the reading, the speaking that students need to do a certain skill, and the nurse teaches the actual hands-on skill. So I would teach, for example, what students need to say when they're turning a client. And I would write the steps on the board, and we'd learn all the vocabulary, and they'd learn the language they need to do that skill. And the nurse would actually show them how to do it. In this Vessel iBest class, I have seen that the retention is exceptional. And the first year that I taught it, the first semester was in 2009, and it was about 92% retention, which means in September, I had 54 students, and after 240 hours of instruction, which would be 5 months later, I had 44 students. So, and this kept going. This went on, which to me is what was better than a general ESL class. And the other thing to know about the iBest, you really have to use it like a managed enrollment class. You can't let people come in the middle because they've lost so much. The other thing I track is the CASAS data, and we have the pre and the post, and it's been 90% generally every semester of paired scores, which means students get 3 points higher from one test to the other. The other way, of course, is to show how many students actually bridge to the vocational class that you want them to go to. In this class, it's the Certified Nursing Assistant. And not only do they bridge there, but they succeed and they become certified. So altogether, since 2009, there have been about 30 students that have gone to CNA and become certified, and about 35 that I know of that are actually caregivers, which is really the main purpose of the class. So, there's the CASAS, there's the retention, there's the, that I know where they're going, but now I've started using Facebook, and students really tell me what they're doing. They tell each other. And so I am seeing amazing stories of how they've gotten hired as caregivers, and they're telling very encouraging stories about when they go from the iBest class to the CNA class, that they know everything, that they've learned it from the nurse and they know the vocabulary, so it's much easier for them to succeed in the CNA class. There are a few ways that the iBest Vessel Personal Care Assistant class builds community. First of all, and I think any managed enrollment class is like this, you have the same people from the beginning to the end. It's not this revolving door. But the teacher still has to do some work to get them to know each other and get along together. So I think too, everyone has the same goal, and it's so much easier to teach that than a general ESL class when there's so many different needs. In this class, there are certain needs, but everybody wants to be in the healthcare field. There are many challenges to teaching IBEST, and just like there are many challenges to teaching ESL, you have, for example, an intermediate class, and there are many different skills in the class. Somebody can write well, somebody can read well. But in an IBEST class like this, we use a nursing assistant book, and it is not an ESL book. So one of the challenges I had at first was making it like an ESL book. So I had to make interactive activities, and I had to tape. I made podcasts for just about the whole book, because they need to hear it. They need the support, the audio support. And also, so it took a lot.
Okay, so hopefully in reviewing these 5 models, you've gotten some ideas on how to integrate. Remember the idea of a garden, integrate academic skills with work preparation skills. And of course, the last part of the IET is training. And the training part would come once your students are proficient enough in language to be able to get into actual workplace training with different employers, with apprenticeships and whatever models you want to use in that regard. And we won't really go into that. So let me ask in the chat, let me bring up the chat. Here we go. In the chat, if you have a specific occupations for which you want to prepare your students, and let's talk a little bit about the language used in those occupations, or the math used. You know, the math used for a truck driver is so different from the math used for a CNA. The language is different. Okay, manufacturing, nursing. Oh, you have a bridge to CNA. Okay, good. And in the work that I've done preparing, doing math for CNA and or health occupations actually, or a language for health occupations, you might keep in mind that occupations have their own language. And for hospitality, imagine hospitality, the kinds of oral language speaking that they would need to have in order to function in a hospitality field. It's so different than somebody in technology who isn't going to be talking so much, but really dealing with problem solving. How often do you have ESL students, your students, create problems and solve problems? I mean, math problems or different kinds. How long? I teach a course on human relations for childcare providers, and it's amazing the amount of conflict that happens in a place like in a CNA program or a child provider program between parents, children, staff, instructors. The conflicts are all over the place because, for one, culture has to come into play, and we don't talk enough about culture. And especially with ESL students, bringing in that cultural aspect in relationships. Okay, concurrent ESL, and yes, you will have access to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to give you that in just a few minutes in my last slide, and also to a packet. Time management. Yeah, that's a job preparation skill. Let me see what else we have here. Okay. I taught a retail bridge course that led to a certificate, lots of specific jargon. Yeah, if we can pay attention to the differences in grammar and math that are used in different occupations so that students learn how to deal with those aspects. One thing that I haven't mentioned, and among work preparation skills, and I meant to mention it way back when we were talking about that list of job prep. Have you ever considered humor? Humor as a job prep? You think there is value in working with ESL students and humor? In my experience, this is what I know about humor. When you're laughing, you're learning. When you're laughing, you're learning. And when you're laughing, the barriers break down. And another thing is that our US humor tends to be very different than the humor used in a lot of other cultures. And it would be nice to teach people how to deal with things like sarcasm and double meanings. And I know you have, if you're ESL teachers, you have a lot of experience with very funny results of students using jargon. So anyway, let's go back and end with, where am I here? Okay, let me go back. And Sharon said that she would be glad to add these two URLs to the chat so that you can access them. One is the presentation and the packet that you can access. And the other one is the links. Links has sponsored me in this workshop. And if you would click on that link and actually fill out the link survey that assesses how much you gain from this workshop, I would really appreciate it. And this last slide then has my email if you want to contact me, and then the links website and links help. It's been a pleasure talking about one of my favorite topics, and with people who are doing the same in so many different and creative ways. So thank you, everybody.
Lisi, thank you so much. And I just really appreciate you for all that you've done here and shared with us. I also want to do as I said I would do, and put the link right into the box here. So let me do that. But I just want to say, thank you to all of those who took the time to join us on this Friday afternoon to hear from this expert presenter, Lisi, who has been in the field for how many years, right, Lisi?
I'm not gonna tell you.
So yes, we're really appreciative of you and appreciative that it's one of the beautiful things about the co-ed community is that we're all sharing with each other. And this is one way that we do this, right, is through the webinars. So thank you, Lisi. Thank you, all of the participants. Lisi talked about the Links community of practice, and I'd like to give a plug there because Links has been a longtime partner of COEB, and they do a great job. There's a lot of great resources out there, and most of all, that connection, the conversation she was talking about. So, Lisi, thank you for bringing that up. And again, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Lisi, any last words before we let the folks go?
Thank you, and thank you, each one of you, for the work you do in helping not only adults in general, but specifically second language learners who struggle so much to feel like they're competent in the workplace when there are so many issues that affect how language affects relationships to a great extent. And I thank you for helping those second language learners to feel comfortable as they enter the workplace. Bye.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisi. And everybody, I realized I put the chat into the poll, into the response to the panelists and not the attendees. So I just put it back out there again. We'll stay on the line for another few minutes so people can see that. I just want to make sure you get the responses, Lacey. So if you didn't have a chance, go on and get in there, and there's the link right there. Thank you, everybody. I'll stay on for just a minute more. Great. Okay. And I just want to again remind you all, Adult Ed and Family Literacy Week is coming up. We hope you'll participate. And everybody that was on this webinar, I just saw that question, you'll all receive a certificate of attendance as well. Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye now.